Good Morning Liberty.
Well, what is up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is another fantastic episode of Good Morning Liberty. My name is Nate Thurston, and across from me is Mr. Charles Chuck Thompson, who's been taking the week off, but we finally got him back
in the
to
saddle.
hang out with us. You missed a lot. You missed so much while you were gone.
One day.
You missed a day. You missed one day where I did an episode, and
One episode.
It's where everything came together. Just everything. It was perfect.
Tell you what, you do it better. You do it better when I'm out of town than I do it when you're out of town.
That's true. We're about to find out because I'm going to Norway here in a couple weeks. And,
wow.
A few weeks, I guess. And I'm going to be gone for almost forever.
Say
but
hello
it's
to my Danish friend.
A solid week. I'm going to be gone in Norway, and I'm going to make a solid bet that there aren't going to be any episodes that week.
We'll see.
We'll just see. But I did find I was reminded yesterday that I don't like doing episodes by myself, and sometimes I think it's just better just to not do it, because what if it was their first episode yesterday and they're like, oh God,
they're probably disappointed today.
This is terrible. Yeah. Yeah. And see, you don't want to let them down by now showing them this at this point. Okay, we got a few things to talk about. The big news of the day right now is that National Security Advisor Mike Waltz seems to be out. I don't think it's been officially announced by the White House, but it has leaked out via Signal Chat that he's out. And here's what that sounds like on Fox News. It's an alert. Have they not learned yet that doing this alert every time they come out of commercial break has sort of killed the meaning of a Fox News alert?
Yep.
I mean, when you watch it, seriously, you watch it, they're going to do Fox News alert every time they come out of a commercial break. It's an alert.
It's like the wolf that cried.
It's crying.
Wolf?
Yes.
This is the fox crying alert.
It is, yeah. Exactly the same thing.
All right, there's a breaking news that happened in the commercial break. So what you're looking at photographs right now of Michael Waltz. He is the president's national security advisor, except for we just got news that he is going to be leaving the administration along with his deputy, Alex Wong. Of course, if you might remember the story of Signalgate. I don't know if that's for a particular reason, but there was some consternation among some people about Mike Waltz, who you might remember was a congressman, Green Beret, a long history and career in foreign policy. And
all right, so there's your breaking news. That's what we got so far. My initial reaction to this is, honestly, I am happy about it. It could be signaling that one was accidental. It could be signaling a really good thing, because Mike Waltz seems to be the more war hawkish person and deep state-ish person that is in the administration. And of course, he definitely had Jeffrey Goldberg's contact in his phone and added him. I mean, purely accidental, but you start to wonder where some of these leaks are coming from and all that. Now, a lot of people online are saying, good, now Pete Hegseth, because they are assuming this has to do with Signalgate and Mike Waltz being the person who added the journalist to the chat. I don't think that's it at all. I don't think people care enough. The only way it would have to do with Signalgate, in my opinion, is if charges are about to be filed or something against someone, and you're wanting to get out ahead of it and get them out of the administration. Other than that, no one cares. They just don't care.
I really think this guy's phone was just filled with journalists, probably. And he might be the sieve.
You think he's the leak, huh?
I think he's the leak.
How about that?
I thought that when Signalgate happened.
Yeah.
I don't think he meant to add Goldblum in there.
Berg, yeah.
Goldblum.
Sure.
Goldberg.
Yeah.
Either way.
They're all the same.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he meant to, but I think that he's been leaking information to people like that, which isn't good. Yeah.
And he just seems to be, I don't know, he's more war hawkish. And I've heard this. I listen to Breaking Points a lot with Crystal and Sagar, and they've said this a lot. And we would definitely favor a guy like Steve Witkoff, who is like the special envoy. He's the one who's doing the negotiating in the Middle East and seems to be taking on a lot of the other negotiating. And it might have been this video. I might play some of this video where they mentioned that Potentially Steve Witkoff could be the person coming in. Now, if that's the case, that is actually a really good signal, because Witkoff is one of these guys who's not part of the establishment deep state. He's a real estate developer like Trump. He is a negotiator, and I think that's why Trump likes him. Probably they had a negotiation one time, and Trump was like, guy's pretty good, keep me on my toes a little bit.
Must have read my book.
And so, yeah. And so he's been doing a bunch of the negotiation, and I think that's a really good thing, because negotiation is better than dropping bombs on people.
Mm-hmm.
So now
slightly better, yeah.
A little bit better, yeah. And I think it's not that these guys are anti-war. We've mentioned this before, and sometimes we'll say like more anti-war, Trump is more anti-war. I don't think it's because they don't like war. I think it's because they see that as a loss, that it means the negotiation failed. And that's why. I don't think it's because they just hate seeing the kids getting bombed or innocent people, or they just hate war. I don't think that's the case. I think that they are negotiators, and they see this as the last resort, and it means that all negotiations failed, and they see war as a failure. But
it's always on the table.
But you know what?
For the negotiation.
Yeah, that's true. It's got to be, because you're negotiating. But you know what? I don't really care what the reason is. Like, if they hate war for that reason because they see it as failure, sure.
Amen.
Sure. I like the outcome, even though they might not hate war for the same reasons. Let's listen to a little bit of this video. I think they mentioned Witkoff and some of the other stuff.
Current staff team at the National Security Council, because of unhappiness throughout the national security establishment of how they're doing. The West Wing's unhappy, the State Department, the Treasury, unhappiness. And of course, this was around before Signalgate. It was widely reported that Signalgate, ironically, may have saved Waltz's job, because the president didn't want to be seen as if he were giving in to Jeffrey Goldberg, his new best friend. But there's lots of levels of unhappiness, and it's less about Signalgate than it is about, as I understand it from my sources, a general belief that it's not being run efficiently in an organized way. It may not. It may happen as early as today. It may not happen ever, because it's Donald Trump. But the plan is for it to happen soon, maybe this weekend. One source says this weekend. We'll see. But the original choice to replace the National Security Advisor for many in the government was a guy named Christopher Landau. He's currently the Deputy Secretary of State. He is said to be doing such a good job and is so valuable to Marco Rubio that Rubio says, no, you can't have my guy. So he's got job lock because he's doing well. Some people have experienced that. You know what that's like. So Landau, I'm told, will not get the job, even though he's very highly thought of, because he's so highly thought of. A candidate that's being discussed who has support at very high levels within the administration is Steve Witkoff, the president's friend and special envoy to everything. Witkoff has a lot of senior level support, but he also has enemies. And two of my three sources pointed me to this, a New York Post story that ran yesterday. Very strange story popped up in the New York Post in the middle of the day yesterday, savaging Steve Witkoff with anonymous quotes saying he's way over his head. He shouldn't be leading the Russian negotiations, that other countries are confused by him, that people in the government think he's amateurish. The story was filled with savage blind quotes. Do we have the money quote, Paul? I don't know if we do or not. There we go. Nice guy, but a dumbling effing idiot, this person said of Witkoff. He should not be doing this alone, meaning negotiating these deals. Now, will his critics be more happy with?
So I think this is interesting about the New York Post story coming out about Steve Witkoff yesterday, because people have been going after Witkoff quite a bit. And once again, I'm not calling him anti-war. He's very pro-negotiation. He's very pro-talking things out. And there seem to be a lot of people within the government who don't like him, maybe for that reason. I don't know. There's always this war machine pushing to get us into war. Now, a thing to add some nuance into my initial positive feeling about this is that at the same time we get this news about Mike Waltz, we're getting, let's get away from that. We are getting some statements about Iran from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. And this is not as good. He says, message to Iran. We see your lethal support to the Houthis. We know exactly what you are doing. You know very well what the U.S. military is capable of, and you were warned. You will pay the consequence at the time and place of our choosing.
Good thing you didn't put the plans on X.
And here's how we're going to do it.
Here's how we're going to do it.
Just going to use this play right here. It's going to be really good. It's going to be, I was just texting my wife earlier. It's going to use this plane and these bombs.
We should have a government social media platform where they just put everything out there.
Yeah, oh, that'd be great. I think it's just transparency, and I want a journalist added to every one of these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a great idea for this to happen. I agree with them. They should have done it, of course. So at the same time, it's weird we're getting this super hard messaging to Iran, which sounds pretty close to threatening war with Iran, from what I can tell.
It sounds like there is going to be a consequence to pay.
Yeah. You will pay the consequence at the time and place of our choosing.
Apparently, there was a line in the sand that's been crossed.
Well, so
there's a lot of sand over there.
Did you hear be careful. I think it was a couple days ago that F-18 fell off of the aircraft carrier, apparently because they had to use some evasive maneuvers. This is the story. This is the assumption. They had to use some evasive maneuvers to get away from this terrible Houthi missile that was coming towards them. I'm not saying that's not the case. I tend to imagine that they've got better ways of shooting down these missiles and stuff coming from this ragtag group of terrorists over there in Yemen, other than having to move their entire aircraft carrier or the missile's going to hit them. But anyway, the story is people think that they had to do some evasive maneuvers, and so a plane fell off of the boat. In my opinion, the planes should be situated in a way where you could turn the boat and they don't fall off. But I don't know if anyone's ever thought about that in the military before,
Like in a time where you might have to do some evasive maneuvers?
Yeah. Like you carry a piece of equipment. Like
maybe strap it down a little?
Like on a trailer, you put a piece of equipment on a trailer. When you take a turn, it doesn't fall off because you got these big ratchet straps on there and you strapped it down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying... potentially there should be stuff like that for airplanes that are like $60 million.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You would think.
I don't know. The ratchet straps could be too expensive.
Yeah. Have you ever seen them park a plane on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the ocean?
No, I haven't.
I got to tell you, if I was a pilot, I would freak out every time.
You're going to fall off?
It looks like you're going to go over the edge before they tell you to stop.
I said probably a lady pilot who forgot to set the parking brake. Left it in neutral. It was the problem and didn't set the parking brake.
Yeah, probably. Honey, we have a problem.
That's a potential thing that could have happened.
My jet ended up in the ocean.
And so then my conspiracy brain was going, and it really shouldn't go this way because Mike Waltz has definitely signaled more that he's in favor of using bombs to solve problems. But then I was like, well, are we about to attack Iran? And Mike Waltz has a problem with it and he's ready to go? Like he doesn't want to do that? I don't know. Keep that open. Keep that open in your mind. It doesn't mean this is automatically a good thing that's happening right now. Maybe magically Mike Waltz doesn't want to attack Iran. Okay, it's laughable. That's not the case. That's not. I think we just ruled that out just now. So thanks for that. In other news,
well, and I would say this is a problem with a guy like Pete Hegseth, who's military background. Obviously, he's going to advocate for using military force.
If you don't use it, you lose it, as they say.
That's the problem with having like a country run by generals, right? You look around the world, anytime a country's been run by generals, it's usually war. That's what they're good at.
When they say that someone's a hammer, and when you're a hammer, you nail.
Yeah, with a sickle.
Yes, exactly. That's what they always say. While we're talking about foreign policy right now, we could mention really quick that it does seem like, they signed a deal with Ukraine, the minerals deal. And cool, I guess. It's could be a move towards peace. I will also say it is going to give us actual American interest in Ukraine. And so while Ukraine wanted a security guarantee, as Trump has said, as other people have said, this is a security guarantee. I mean, we use the term in national interests all over the place.
It's a very loose term.
All over the place, but if we're going to invest a ton of money and American companies are going to invest a ton of money and build up these mines and all that to extract these minerals. By the way, this minerals deal is not for the current minerals they have that they're currently mining in Ukraine. It's for new mines that will be built. Those mines, by the way, the location of where these minerals are based off of like old Soviet plans, like Soviet surveys of where they think minerals are. They haven't been vetted, apparently. But anyhow, we're going to do it, and it's going to be good.
It's going to be great.
This gives us actual national interest over there.
Lots of minerals.
This could be a provocation, but we need these minerals because China's not wanting to sell us minerals anymore for some odd reason.
Yeah.
And so we need the minerals, of course. And so anyhow, that's
not to build Teslas though.
No, not that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. I wanted to get to the Matt Walsh thing because Matt Walsh was making the news last night. He did an interview on Tucker Carlson. And it was, I immediately opened it up and I just skipped to the second half where they talk about Israel and they talk about the Dave Smith, Douglas Murray debate. It is wild right now that this debate is still a big topic of conversation. I saw someone mention that last night, but this debate became potentially like a dividing line or turning point or a fork in the road for people when it comes to Israel or foreign policy or whatever the case may be.
Worldwide.
And that's Douglas Murray's fault because he could have gone up there and just made really good arguments instead of just talking about credibility and talking about expertise the whole time, credentialism, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And that got everyone really mad about this whole topic. He could have just gone out and made arguments against Dave Smith's points. He did later on in the interview, but it was too late by then. Like, I'm not going to listen to this guy. I might as well be listening to a guy wearing a white coat on CNN telling me that if I go outside, I'm going to die in 2021.
It's going to lead to a heart attack.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I need to eat more bread, according to the food pyramid, you know, stay away from meat. So anyhow, he had this video was done pretty well so far. I mean, pretty good so far. You know, not as good as that one video. You know what I'm talking about.
Well, go to the actual Tucker Carlson.
Oh, is this oh, yeah, you're right. Let me go to it. It's probably pretty good. Let's see what we got here. That's worse.
Huh?
How is that worse?
I don't know.
I just went into my Tucker Carlson voice just then. That was weird. All right. Let's play this video from Matt Walsh, and you'll see why people are talking about it.
What did you think of the debate between Dave Smith and Douglas Murray on Rogan a couple of weeks ago? Did you watch that? And what
I did. I watched. I ended up watching. I wasn't planning on watching the whole thing, but I watched the whole thing. I'm constantly hearing from the peanut gallery demanding that I kind of give my verdict or my take on Israel and Israel versus Palestine and all this kind of stuff. And I have given my take, and my take is I don't care that much. I'm not just America first. I'm an American chauvinist in that I only care about my own country. I honestly don't care about other countries. I wish the people of other countries well. I think they all have a right to defend themselves, and they should. I think that if you can't defend yourself as a nation, or if you can't survive without being propped up by another government, say ours, then you shouldn't exist as a country.
Wait. If you can't exist without being propped up by another government, say ours, you shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Israel cannot exist without being propped up by the United States.
You think so?
Its nuclear program came from the United States. Its weapons come from the United States. Its economy is supported by the United States. I'm not attacking Israel. I'm just saying in point of fact, I think that's true. I mean, Israel thinks it's true, or they wouldn't have armies of lobbyists and influencers in the United States. Bibi wouldn't have shown up twice in the past 3 months.
From my perspective, it seems like they can handle themselves quite fine. But any country, if there is any country out there that fundamentally cannot exist without being subsidized by American taxpayers, then not only should that country not exist, but that country already does not exist.
And that's
strong words.
That's Ron Paul Matt Walsh there.
That's formerly of the Daily Wire Matt Walsh right there. No, just everyone's saying he's out. By the way, he has said this before. I have heard him saying this exact same thing before in the past. I would imagine there's probably some disagreements from a guy like Ben Shapiro on the Daily Wire with what he's saying, but also in the rest of the conversation outside of this clip, they do talk more about how Matt Walsh thinks that Israel would still be fine without money from the U.S. The point that Tucker Carlson made, well, it must be the case because they've got all these lobbyists here and Bibi's been here. I wouldn't say that specifically means they wouldn't be able to exist right now. I think if there's money laying on the table, you go pick it up.
Yep.
That's what I think.
It's worth the investment.
Yeah, you might as well.
Yeah.
You're going to get the money.
Yeah.
So you might as well go get it.
You spend $5 billion lobbying the American government and they give you $100.
Yeah.
I mean, the ROI is pretty strong on that.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So
you might as well do that. In fact, we should do that to other. Let's see if we can get some other countries to give us some money.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that?
Right. Yeah.
I think they'll be fine. I'm sure that he's made this clear with Ben Shapiro before. But it is interesting to think, like, let's say they couldn't exist. I think that means that they shouldn't exist. Like, why should you be a country? Are you even a country if you can only exist because we're giving you money? Like that, what does it actually mean?
This also stands for Ukraine.
Yeah.
I mean, why are they just talking about Israel?
Yeah.
I mean, he's basically saying the same thing about Ukraine.
Well, well, first off, they were talking about the Douglas Murray, Dave Smith debate.
Yes.
And that whole topic. And to be clear, people want Matt Walsh to talk about Israel because he's part of the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro is part of the Daily Wire. Mm-hmm. So they want to get his take on Israel so they can try and create what we're doing right now. It's like people talking about it and create some division in there. Like that's the case. I think Israel probably these days would be fine. They've got money. And so Matt Walsh is probably probably in the clear on that whole thing. Might not be the case historically though. But I agree. Let's stop giving money to foreign countries. Why don't we just stop doing that? And the point that he made about being an American chauvinist, in all honesty, like I've never called it that before, but that is really how I feel about most of these things. Like, listen, it is terrible that there are innocent people that get killed around the world.
Well, if we do that, though, then you just give rise to another Hitler in Europe, Nate.
Which part?
If America doesn't get involved.
Oh,
I mean, that's why Hitler took over most of Europe.
I'm saying it is terrible that Israel is killing so many civilians in Gaza, and it's terrible that so many people are dying.
No, I'm just saying
Ukraine
if you're an American chauvinist,
that's true.
That's what ends up happening.
Isolationism. Yes, that's how you end up having Hitler. Yeah. That's why we had Hitler. It was because Ron Paul was running the government back then.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was the big issue, as everyone knows. I kind of feel the same way. Like, I care. I feel bad for people. But my biggest thing is I don't want any of my money going towards it. That's the first thing. And I also don't want any of my money going towards cover for people. Like, you know how much of Israel's defense, they had to rely on us to shoot down Iran's missile attack on them. And they had to rely on us to stop that. What if they weren't able to rely on us to stop that? Well, they might have to consider the things that they're doing and what some of the repercussions of that might be. They might have to consider other alternative options for the way that they are conducting themselves in that area. So that's what I have to say about that. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but that leads into this other clip that's going around right now where he's talking about the debate and is talking about one of the good points that he thinks Douglas Murray made. And I think it's a decent point. I think there's a better point that I hear people make all the time. It's what I think he was going to say. The best point anyone can make on this topic right now is if Israel just stops, they pull all their troops out, they stop dropping bombs, they stop doing all that, what do you think is going to happen? Peace in the region?
No.
Afterwards? No. Now,
first of all, there's a lot of cleanup.
Yes.
If you've seen the pictures, my God.
A lot of cleanup.
The videos.
Need a bunch
of
cleanup over there. And so that's definitely the case now, especially after the way the war has gone and say 40,000 people. So you see numbers like 50,000 people dying. There is no solution to this anymore. There is no peace after this. Like, these people were upset about some of the other battles that had taken place and the back and forth and the reprisals and retaliations that have been taking place since like 1917. And now with 40 or 50,000 people dying, this is not going to stop.
They turned it up to 11.
They went all the way up to 11. They went to 11,000 and they were all civilians.
Yeah.
It was children.
That was women and children. Yeah.
So it's not going to stop now. And so especially now you could say, well, what happens? Israel just stops and then there's peace afterwards? No. There's going to be plenty more attacks. They could decide to be as peaceful as possible. You know, there were these people living in the kibbutz that actually a lot of them got killed, and they were like the peaceful left wing, let's all assimilate, live together, live in peace and harmony, which must be out in California somewhere, living in that. And
in the 60s.
And a bunch of them got killed too. Like these people, they don't care. They don't care if the Israelis they were killing were people who disagree with the Israeli government's policies. I mean, they were just killing people because they're Israelis. They just want to kill as many as possible. It's not going to stop. It's not going to. There's not an option.
Yeah, I mean all the ites hate each other.
Yeah, all the ites.
Israelites, Shiites.
Let's hear this conversation.
So Douglas Murray said one thing. He made one point that I thought was really good. It was just a simple one. I like simple points.
Me too.
This is where I thought he was going to make the point that I was just making, but it's not that point.
And at one point he asked Dave, because once they got into arguing about what happened after October 7th, how Israel responded, and Dave has all of his criticisms about what Israel has done. And then Douglas Murray said, "Well, what would you have them do? You know, what would you prefer for them to have done if they want to rescue the hostages and also destroy Hamas? What do you want them to do instead?" And then, from what I remember, Dave, he pointed out that, okay, destroying Hamas and rescuing hostages are not necessarily the same objective. And then they started talking about rescuing hostages. They didn't really circle back to the destroying Hamas part. And I would have liked to see him stick on that point. Like, get an answer. So if you're Israel, you have a foreign, these foreign enemy that's come into your country, slaughtered hundreds of people. How should you respond to that? And I think he should have pressed that, and he didn't. And so it was sort of unfocused.
All right.
We've given the answer.
Yeah, we've talked about this. He throws in what would you have them do with this goal of getting the hostages and destroying Hamas? And as people have pointed out in the group, the first thing people have to understand is that you're not going to destroy Hamas. Israel has killed, by their account, like 20,000 Hamas fighters. And also, by their account, 15,000 new people have joined Hamas after that. Now, I guess that's a net negative of 5,000. Mm-hmm. So eventually, I don't know what that works out to. You kill about 1 million people. Should be worked down to no, it's not really gonna work that way. Just ask us. We're American. And I don't remember this part of the debate specifically. I feel like Dave Smith would have had a good answer to that, because what do you do about destroying Hamas? Well, why don't you ask America how you destroy the Taliban and how you destroy Al-Qaeda and ISIS and all these? Like, you don't. Even when we say they're destroyed, that basically they changed their name. It's like, we started a new LLC over here, and they're like, oh, that one's gone. Yeah, we killed those guys. You don't stop these people.
Well, how did we destroy the Nazis and Hitler?
Total. Well, you got to get them to give up is actually the way that you do that. But this is different. This is not these are non-state actors acting on ideology. It's not
libertarians.
It's not as if, it's not as if the guy in charge or whoever, like the state falls or the state signs a piece of paper and is like, all right, we're done. And then all the people below them are like, all right, cool. I don't really care that much about my mom getting, murdered many years ago or anything like that. I'm not so mad because they signed that piece of paper and everything. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen. And the next thing you do when you realize that you're not going to destroy Hamas, you look at all the time and money and American lives that we spent trying to do that with other terrorist organizations. That's not possible. The next thing you think is, well, we also don't want to incentivize more people to join them. We don't want to create more Hamas members. How do you create Hamas members? You kill their families. And then people, all of a sudden, they're like, okay, yeah, what else am I going to do? I'm going to make sure that I spend my whole life making sure these people are dead.
This is my mission.
This is all that matters. Mm-hmm. That's all that matters. And so you stop trying to create more Hamas members, which is what happens. They're not doing that. And then we answered the question of, like, what would you have them do? And actually, I think let me see, Jeremy Kaufman, I think, is who this post came from. He says the answer is that Israel should accept more casualties in order to reduce harm to Palestinian civilians. And that is basically the answer. They should have gone in there. And I realize they're booby traps, and you don't know who's a civilian and who's not, stuff like that. And I know it's so easy for us to say sitting in our chairs right now in Nashville, Tennessee, but right after October 7th, for the most part, people around the world were sympathetic to what had just happened to Israel. Now, there were plenty of students who went out there, and there were Hamas protests, or pro-Palestine protests, anti-Israel protests. But even those people were treated like insane people. Like, they had flyers going around with the dude in the parachute, whatever that thing was called, I can't remember. And everyone generally agreed that's disgusting, And so they had sort of that moral high ground, and they had a legitimate victimhood status that had been brought to them on a silver plate or a platter, I don't know what they call it over there. And they could have done the morally righteous thing, which is target specific people and go in and try to get those hostages. They would have lost more lives, but they should have been more strategic about it. Instead, they gave away the moral high ground, and they gave away their victimhood status by creating 50 times as many victims on the other side. People will agree to a point that sometimes there is collateral damage in a war. It's accidental. You didn't mean to. But they're not going to agree to the point of 20 or 30,000 people being collateral damage. And then the pictures of what Gaza looks like now, they're not going to agree to that point. Some people still will. Clearly, plenty of people still will. They'll look at that, late at night when they're alone by themselves, if you know what I mean.
And laugh about it.
And they'll laugh about it. Yeah, that's what they'll do, But for the most part, people are not going to accept that. They're definitely not going to accept that you're still the victim. And I'm not going to accept that it's still primarily a defensive war anymore. You have an attack on you, you can defend yourself, okay? Is this still defensive, or is this they're trying to prevent future attacks, right? Which you can call defensive.
Yeah, I think there's even of course, I don't know if the Jews really believe in Jesus, but there's
I don't think. What do you mean? I don't think they do.
I was just saying there's a biblical principle.
I think it was kind of a whole thing.
There's a biblical principle. What if you gain the whole world, but you lose your soul in the process?
Is that in their book, or is that in the newer books?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't exactly remember. Chat, help me out. They're saying the Psalms. That's David. That's in their book.
Is that in their book?
That's in the Jew book. What? It is.
Yeah.
I'm being technical about it. I'm not making a joke. So there's that. Okay, let's say you kill everyone in the entire world defending your family.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you won. But at what cost? Israel absolutely has a right to defend itself and go in and get the hostages, and there could be some collateral damage. But imagine that here's a different story. You send in the special forces into a home where the hostages, and one of the guys throws up a child in front of your bullet, and so that kid dies, but you got the hostages, and you're then you make a press conference, be we got these hostages. Unfortunately, there were, 2 women and
innocents died in the crossfire.
Yes, because they decided to hold the kids up as shields,
mm-hmm.
and then the whole world would be understanding
of
a situation like that.
They would,
rather than, we have a hostage in this building, so we brought the entire thing down so that maybe we could get the hostage out of there. We don't know if we got the hostage or not.
And the big problem, strategically, on this is that you're just creating more Hamas members, and you're creating a more dangerous environment for Israel later. We have, I don't know how many times we have said this now, but if you're on the side of Israel and of Israel living in peace, and Israel is the moral and just society that should exist in that part of the world, then you don't want them to do what they're doing right now. It is not good for them long term. It doesn't matter what arguments you want to make about human shields and all that. The plain fact of the matter is If you care about the longevity and peace for Israel, you don't want them to be doing what they're doing right now. It's not the right answer at all. So many more people wish them harm now than even did on the morning of October 7th. So many more people.
I'll be honest, I'm tired of talking about it.
I know, but it's still the big topic right now.
I don't understand. I take more of Matt Walsh's side. Like, let's just stay out of it.
I agree with that. The important, they go on it.
At the very least, let's stop sending taxpayer money because we don't have it.
That's the bottom line.
We just don't even have the money.
I promise I'll stop talking about it when we stop sending, when it's a part of our money that's paying for this to happen.
Yeah.
I'll stop talking about it then. Or when we're about to get drug into other wars with other countries like Iran, or like we've done 47 straight days of bombing campaigns on Yemen right now and creating way more people over there that hate us now than even hated us before. I guarantee you there are more people in Yemen today that want to kill Americans and want to kill Israelis than there were 50 days ago. After all the bombs that were dropped, after all the people that have been killed, there are far more people that are going to try to kill us than there were beforehand. And that's just how these things work. It's just not the way to go about it. I can't believe we haven't learned. The important part of the reason you want to talk about this, even though it's getting old at this point for us since we've talked about it so much, is so you learn from mistakes and don't repeat them. And like that's why it would have been important for Israel to learn from America's mistakes in the war on terror. You know, they should have learned that lesson. Are you going to destroy the Taliban? How do you get rid of the Taliban? You don't get rid of the Taliban. You just don't. You stop making more of them, and you stop giving them more reasons, sometimes legitimate.
Unless you just get rid of all of them.
But then, so that's the other thing. Some of the comments on Jeremy's post here are like, well, we just need to, there's no innocent civilians in Palestine. We're just going to have to get rid of all of them. Okay. And then there's the next point that we've made now several times.
Iran.
What about Egypt? What about Iran? What about Jordan? What about Syria? What about the other countries in it? What about Yemen? What about, maybe not Egypt. Egypt's not really on their side, but I'm not sure they'd be totally cool with us wiping all those people off the map. Maybe they would. Maybe they'd be fine. What about all those
Jordan.
people? Okay, so you want to get rid of those people then. All right. So now you're going to kill how many millions of people to make sure that this country, who clearly everyone's mad at because they started stealing people's land a long time ago. Okay. You want to kill all these millions of people because of that? It's not an answer. It's a recipe for world war is what it actually is, because some of these countries are going to be aligned with Russia and, Iran and us and Europe and all that. And it's just a recipe for a world war to go through that. There's no such thing as just wiping Palestine off the map and the situation being resolved. There are other people who live in that area who care about it also.
There are refugees from Palestine who live in other areas.
Yeah. Probably some in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work. It's a more dangerous world after that happens. So anyhow, there's what's something, you got anything good? What's good? You got anything good before we go?
It's getting warmer. It's just good for
God,
me.
stop. No, that's awful.
I know you hate it.
No.
I love the warmth.
Why? You
know.
enjoy like sweating and feeling uncomfortable?
I'm more uncomfortable when I'm really cold.
I'd
I'd like to walk outside in shorts.
At least eventually when you're super cold, you just get like crazy tired and you fall asleep slowly, I mean like really cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like that with heat though.
Actually, I hear before you die, you actually feel a sense of warmth.
You feel warm. That's why you end up taking off all your clothes, because you're burning up.
Yeah.
And that's how you find a lot of people naked that froze to death that had clothes on beforehand. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, so your positive is that it's getting uncomfortably hot. But let's make that I'm going to agree with you, and I'm going to make it a positive. Less people die from heat than die from cold. And so as we move away from cold, there will be less deaths from extreme temperatures.
I love
than there are other times. So I'm going to help you frame that terrible point as a positive.
Yeah.
There we
go. All right.
Well,
if you guys are positive now, then share the show with a friend, a family member, or a foe. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go to GodHatesFeds.com, pick up some merchandise, and on there you'll see a button that says Join GML. Click that button, or just go to joingml.com. Be part of the Fed Haters Club. It's the best club. And if we can all agree on one thing, is that we should hate the feds.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
All of them.
I mean, they're the ones who steal your money and send it over to these places that you don't want it going to.
I know.
Yeah. It's the biggest mafia there is.
If you're against this war, you should hate the feds. And if you're in agreement with this war, you should hate the feds for other reasons.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because
Because
they're
they're giving you money to
just
stuff.
like American feds. There's feds everywhere.
All sorts of
and
feds.
they seem to cause a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, that's the moral of the story. So Fed Haters Club, and if you're in that club, then we know that you're a decent, at least a decent human being that we could probably get along with. There's some jive turkeys in here, but you know,
Whoa,
some good ones. Some good ones.
you call someone a JT?
Yeah,
Man.
yeah. Well, you know, it's getting rowdy. Go to the links. Visit the links in the show notes to support the sponsors that support this show. And if you do all of that, we'll be back again tomorrow. Hope you have a good day and a good morning, Liberty.